Have you ever woken up feeling like the weight of the world is already pressing against your chest? Before the sun has even risen, your mind is racing with responsibilities, unspoken fears, or questions you don't know how to answer. Maybe you've smiled at the world but cried in your car. Maybe you've carried burdens so long they feel like a part of you now. If that's you this morning, I want to say something simple. You are not alone. This is your moment to pause, to breathe, to remember that your strength was never meant to carry everything alone. This is a morning prayer, not just before you start your day, but before the heaviness starts again, a space to let go. A quiet, honest devotional to remind your heart that it's okay not to have it all figured out, that God sees, that Jesus cares, and that His peace can meet you right where you are. I remember one morning, years ago, when everything felt like it was crumbling. My job, my finances, even my sense of purpose were unraveling. I sat on the kitchen floor with a cup of coffee gone cold, and I prayed. Not a polished prayer, just one sentence whispered through tears. God, I can't do this today. That was it. And somehow, peace showed up. Not because everything changed, but because I knew I didn't have to face it alone. That's the power of a simple daily Jesus prayer, the kind that finds you in your brokenness and breathes strength into the cracks. So wherever you are right now, whether you feel faith or fear, I invite you to pray with me. This is a daily devotional prayer for today, a moment of stillness, a breath of comfort, a reminder that you're held. Let's start your day with God. Let's walk into this devotional space with hearts open, not to perform, but to be restored. Because what comes next might just be what your soul has been waiting for. So let this be your morning prayer before you start your day, not out of habit, but out of holy longing, to be held and guided before anything else begins. Some days, trust feels like lifting something heavier than our hearts know how to carry. You wake up and already your soul is tired. Not tired from lack of sleep, but from carrying too many questions, holding too many outcomes, trying to make sense of things you can't control. You keep walking, keep doing, but inside you're whispering, God, I don't know how to let go. There's a verse that gently meets us here. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. It sounds simple, but if you've ever really tried to live this verse, you know it demands a kind of faith that stretches beyond feelings. It's not about ignoring the confusion, but learning to breathe through it with quiet courage. Maybe today, you feel like a traveler lost in fog. You're searching for a map, or at least a sign, but all you hear is silence. That silence doesn't mean God is absent. Sometimes, it means He's walking quietly beside you, waiting for you to stop running the show and finally rest in His presence. Daily Jesus prayer is often less about saying the right words and more about laying down the need to figure everything out. I once heard someone say, letting go isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing you can do when you've come to the end of yourself. And maybe that's the invitation this devotional holds today. Maybe the daily devotional prayer we need most isn't eloquent but surrendered. Not about knowing the next step, but trusting the one who does. Imagine your life like a tightly closed fist. You've gripped so hard for so long that your fingers are sore, and now God is gently inviting you to open your hand. Not to lose everything, but to receive what you cannot hold if you're still clenching control. There is beauty in surrender, strength in releasing what you were never meant to carry alone. So today, speak it out loud if you need to. Whisper it if your voice trembles. Say it in your own words if that feels more honest. God, I surrender this. I submit my path to you. Even when I can't see, I will trust that you are leading me somewhere good. Let this daily prayer be your anchor in the uncertainty, a place where your inner strength is renewed by God's peace. You're not failing if you feel fragile. You're not faithless if you need reminders. This is a morning prayer before you start your day with more grace than answers, and that is more than enough. And maybe, just maybe, the next step will become clearer. Not because the fog lifted, but because your heart finally felt safe enough to move forward. So now, let's keep walking together into the next breath, the next prayer, the next quiet moment where faith finds its voice. Even after we say we trust, fear can still come knocking. There are moments when fear doesn't shout, but whispers. It sneaks into quiet corners of your heart late at night when no one else is watching. It disguises itself as overthinking, as second-guessing, as the voice that says, "What if you're not enough? What if you get it wrong?" If you've ever laid awake and stared at the ceiling, hoping for answers that never seem to come, you're not alone. In those moments, the soul aches not just for comfort but for clarity. For a light to cut through the noise. That is where God meets us, not with a loud command, but with a gentle lamp. Psalm 32:8 promises, "I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you." And again in Psalm 119-105, we read, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." These aren't just poetic words. They are reminders that even when we can't see the whole road, we are not walking blind. Think of walking in the dark with only a lantern in your hand. You may not see the destination, but you can see just enough for the next step. That's what God's peace is like. It doesn't always answer every question. It doesn't promise shortcuts, but it quiets the storm within just long enough for you to move forward without panic. I remember a message someone once shared with me during a season of deep anxiety. Don't rush clarity. Live the question with God until the light comes. That truth changed the way I pray. Now, my daily Jesus prayer isn't about quick answers. It's about the courage to stay present in the mystery, knowing that peace is often found not in resolution, but in surrender. So today, if fear is standing in the doorway of your heart, invite God into the room. Let His word be your anchor and His presence your comfort. Lay down the pressure to know it all. Receive the gentle whisper that says, "I'm with you, I see you, I'll show you the way." Let your daily devotional prayer today be less about conquering fear and more about walking with faith through it. You are not walking alone. And sometimes the greatest miracle is not that fear disappears, but that it no longer controls you. Now, with one more step forward, let's see what waits on the other side of that fear. Because ahead of us is not just another prayer, but a promise waiting to be claimed. Sometimes it's not fear that stops us, but exhaustion. The kind of soul-tired weariness that doesn't show on your face, but quietly weighs down every breath. Maybe you've been trying so hard to stay strong for everyone else, but inside, you feel like a candle burning low. We don't always talk about those moments, the ones when faith feels too far and strength feels out of reach. But in the stillness of those fragile hours, there is a whisper that reaches deeper than despair. "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." 2 Corinthians 12:9. This is not a verse for the victorious. It's a lifeline for the barely holding on, and maybe that's what makes it holy. There's something sacred about being honest with God in our weakest state. To admit, "I'm not okay. I don't feel strong. I feel broken, tired, and unsure." And yet, to still turn our face toward heaven and ask, "Can you carry me?" That is strength not in having it all together, but in letting God be enough when we are not. I once met a woman who had lost nearly everything in the span of 1 year: her job, her home, even her sense of identity. She told me, "The moment I stopped pretending to be okay was the moment I actually started to heal. I asked God to sit with me in the rubble, and He did. He didn't lecture me. He didn't fix it all right away, but He stayed, and that gave me the courage to take the next breath." That is the essence of spiritual encouragement. Not a thunderous miracle, but the quiet presence of God that strengthens us in the shadows. His grace doesn't demand performance, it invites presence. Daily prayer isn't about showcasing our holiness, it's about surrendering our humanity. So today, If all you can bring to God is your weariness, bring it. If your daily Jesus devotional feels more like a cry than a confession, let it be so. If your strength is gone, let Him be your strength. You don't have to earn it, you just have to open your hands and receive. Declare it now with confidence and clarity. I am not strong on my own, but I am held by the one who is. I am not perfect, but His grace is enough. I may stumble, but I will rise because He is lifting me. And as this prayer continues to unfold, we begin to discover sometimes the breakthrough we long for is hidden in the very place we hope to avoid, our own limitations. So let's go deeper still and find what healing awaits in the quiet next chapter. Fear doesn't always come with loud thunder. Sometimes it slips in like a shadow, quiet and cold, casting doubt in corners we thought were safe. It shows up in the form of hesitation, in the pause before a decision, in the thoughts that whisper, "What if I fail again? What if I'm not strong enough this time?" But we are not called to live imprisoned by fear. 2 Timothy 1-7 declares a truth that breaks through the grip of anxiety. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. This is not a gentle suggestion. It's a bold reminder. Fear is not from God, and if it's not from Him, it has no right to stay. Still, even when we know that truth, fear can be persistent. It circles our thoughts, tries to cloud our clarity, dull our confidence. That's why spiritual clarity is not something we wait to feel. It's something we choose to step into, one breath, one prayer, one act of faith at a time. I remember speaking to a young man who had just lost a business he built from scratch. The loss shook his identity, his confidence, his sense of direction. He said, "Every time I tried to start again, I heard this voice saying, 'You're not ready. You'll mess it up again.'" But then one day, he wrote that verse from 2 Timothy on a sticky note and stuck it to his bathroom mirror. He read it every morning until something shifted. He said, "I stopped waiting to feel brave. I just started choosing to believe that I was not alone." That is the power of daily Jesus prayer. Not just asking for deliverance, but declaring truth over the lies. We don't wait for fear to leave before we move. We walk forward while truth speaks louder than doubt. This is what a daily devotional looks like, not distant theology, but personal truth for your everyday journey. So today, we speak it with authority. I reject the spirit of fear. I receive the spirit of power. I walk with a sound mind. I am not who fear says I am. I am who God has called me to be. Let this be your prayer for today. A daily devotional that strengthens your inner resolve. A prayer for peace, not because life is quiet, but because your soul is anchored. You are not a prisoner to fear. You are a witness to God's courage living in you. And as we move forward, there's even more waiting on the other side of this courage, truth about who you are and whose you are, waiting to be declared. When fear begins to fade, something else rises from within, a quiet but powerful realization of who you truly are. Not what the world labels you, not what failure once whispered, not what comparison tried to convince you of. You are a child of God. Not metaphorically, not abstractly, actually. You are chosen, set apart, deeply loved. And in this holy space of your morning devotional, may your soul not just remember but believe that God's love is not earned, but freely given. There's something sacred about remembering that identity, especially when you've been through seasons that tried to strip it from you. Because once you know who you are, you begin to live differently. You begin to speak with confidence. You walk with peace. You resist the lies not by argument, but by knowing the truth that already lives in you. I met a woman once who had spent years trying to prove herself in her career, in her family, even in her faith. One night, through tears, she said, "I'm exhausted. I just want to know I'm enough." We sat in silence. Then I said, "You don't have to earn what God already gave you." Her face changed. She exhaled. and that breath felt holy. That's what this devotional moment is for, not just reflection, but revelation. In Ephesians, Paul reminds us that we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works. You were made with purpose, and that purpose is rooted not in performance, but in presence, in being found in Him. Let this be your daily Jesus devotional prayer. I am your child. I am not forgotten. I am not unwanted. I am not a mistake. I am chosen, set apart, deeply loved. I am yours. Let it echo in your heart until it silences the noise around you. Let it shape how you show up in your relationships, your work, your quiet moments. Say it out loud if you need to. Write it on paper. Whisper it before bed. This is your truth, your inheritance, your identity. And as we step forward, let that identity be the lens through which we see every trial, every decision, every storm. Because when you know who you are, you no longer fight for victory, you fight from it. And now, from this rooted place of identity, we move toward peace even in chaos, with the kind of trust that doesn't waver, but worships. Even when we know who we are in God, life doesn't always grow calm. The winds still rise, the waves still hit. The inbox fills, the bills pile up, the headlines overwhelm, and suddenly, peace feels like something reserved for other people. But in the middle of that chaos, there's a still small voice that calls to our soul with the words from Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still because everything is calm. Be still because He is God, even when it's not. There is a strength that comes not from escape, but from stillness, from choosing, in the middle of pressure, to pause long enough to remember who holds the outcome. That's what it means to start your day with God. Not waiting until the noise stops, but entering into stillness while the world keeps turning. I once heard a mother of 4 say, "My bathroom became my sanctuary. It was the only place I could be still and breathe." And in that tiny room, she whispered prayers that shook her world. Because stillness isn't about surroundings, it's about surrender. Let your morning prayer not be an escape from reality, but an anchor within it. Speak peace over your own heart. Declare truth louder than the noise. Even in the storm, I will be still. Not because I have control, but because I know who does. My soul is safe. My future is held. My peace is not circumstantial, it is spiritual. There is power in that kind of prayer for peace. A kind that calms more than emotion. It resets our rhythm. It reminds us that we walk not alone, not aimless, but accompanied and appointed. So today, as the pressure rises and expectations knock at your door, take a holy pause. Breathe deep. Return to the stillness that holds you. That one sacred breath might just be your greatest act of spiritual warfare. And from that stillness, we move forward toward the waiting, the uncertainty, the unanswered prayers, but not with fear, with faith. Let this be your sacred morning prayer, a quiet beginning that doesn't rush, but receives. As you prepare to face the day, may this be the breath that centers you, the truth that holds you, and the whisper that reminds you, you're never walking alone. Waiting is holy ground, but sometimes it feels more like a battlefield, especially when the prayers you've whispered in the dark go seemingly unanswered, when doors close without explanation, when silence stretches long and wide and heavy. You wonder, God, did you hear me? Did I do something wrong? Am I being punished or protected? It is here, in this sacred ache, that Romans 8:28 meets us. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Not some things, not just easy things, all things. Even this. I once read the words of someone who had just come through a long season of waiting. She said, "I thought God was being silent, but later I realized He was rearranging things behind the scenes to give me better than what I asked for." That stuck with me. Because we rarely see what He's doing while we wait. But when we look back, we often realize that the delays weren't denials, they were divine protection. Think of waiting like sitting in the dark soil before the seed breaks open. It feels still, it feels hidden, but it is not wasted. Growth is happening underground. Let your daily Jesus prayer in this season be simple and honest. Lord, I don't see it yet. I don't understand it yet, but I trust that you are working, even in this. I believe your plan is bigger than mine. And I receive the peace to wait without fear. This is where patience isn't passive. It's powerful. It's you standing on the truth when your emotions scream otherwise. It's choosing to believe in healing and restoration before the evidence shows up. It's spiritual maturity in motion. So if you find yourself in a hallway with every door closed, remember, a closed door can be a blessing, a no can be mercy, and a pause can be the holy space where God prepares something greater than what you were praying for. And maybe, just maybe, the next door is already turning on its hinge. Which brings us now to what it means to walk not just patiently, but powerfully in step with the Spirit, ready to discern when to wait and when to move. Not all movement is progress. Sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is slow down enough to ask, God, is this you, or is this just me trying to make something happen? The pace of the world is relentless, but the pace of the Spirit, it's intentional, gentle, wise. It's like the soft glow of a lantern lighting just the next few steps, never the entire road, but always enough to keep walking by faith. As Psalm 119-105 says, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. You don't have to see the whole picture. You just have to stay close enough to the one holding the lamp. I once heard a father tell his daughter, you don't need to run to find God's will. Just walk slowly enough to notice where he's already moving. That image stuck with me. Because how often do we run ahead, fueled by fear of missing out or falling behind, when all along, the Holy Spirit is saying, walk with me, not faster, not farther, just with me. Daily devotional living isn't about being perfect. It's about practicing presence, listening for the whisper instead of chasing the noise, noticing divine appointments that look like interruptions, asking, what are you doing here, Lord, and how can I join in? So today, let your morning prayer before you start your day be a prayer of alignment. Holy Spirit, guide my steps. Slow me down if I'm rushing ahead. Nudge me forward if I'm holding back. Tune my ears to your voice above all others. Help me not just to go, but to go with you. Watch how peace begins to follow your steps. Watch how clarity grows in quiet obedience. Watch how even the smallest decision becomes sacred when it's made in the light of God's presence. Because spiritual clarity doesn't come from overthinking, it comes from overtrusting. Trusting that when God leads, it won't just be good, it will be right, it will be holy, it will be enough. And so, we walk forward, not just as wanderers, but as followers in rhythm with the Spirit, with courage in our heart and light on our path. And ahead, something beautiful is beginning to rise. Once we've learned to walk in the Spirit, our hearts begin to shift from surviving to seeing. We begin to notice others in the hallway of heartbreak, those carrying burdens they can't name, wounds they don't know how to speak of, and fatigue that no sleep can fix. This is where our prayers stretch beyond our own needs. This is where intercession becomes an act of love. Right now, there is someone who feels completely unseen. Maybe it's the single mother holding back tears on her lunch break, the young man battling anxiety in silence, the elder who feels forgotten in their own home, the student who's smiling on the outside but drowning on the inside. And maybe, just maybe, your prayer for them is the very lifeline their soul has been waiting for. So we lift them up. God, for the one who feels worn down by life's weight, be their strength. For the one whose thoughts are clouded by fear, let your peace wash over them like sunrise through fog. For the one battling illness or pain, bring healing, restoration, and comfort. For the one who feels lost, shine your light on their path. And for the one who thinks they are alone, surround them with your presence so deeply that loneliness must flee. This is not just a prayer for peace. This is a declaration that God's love is stronger than despair, that His presence reaches further than isolation, that His healing flows into every hidden place. Let us never underestimate the power of standing in the gap. Sometimes the greatest act of faith isn't climbing the mountain, but kneeling beside someone else who can't. So today, as part of your daily Jesus devotional, take a moment to pause and pray for someone who comes to mind. Write their name in your journal. Reach out with a message. Let them know they're not forgotten. You don't have to fix them, just lift them. And as we carry others in prayer, we begin to see how God carries us all. Which brings us, gently and powerfully, to the next part of our journey where testimony turns into strength and surrender becomes a song. Every time you pray for another, every time you show up in compassion, you are living a daily devotional that echoes heaven's heartbeat on earth. I haven't always known how to pray with this kind of trust. There were years where I only came to God when I had answers to give, when I thought faith meant strength, composure, or performance. But then came the breaking. I remember the day clearly. A prayer I had poured years into ended with a door slammed shut. I felt confused, abandoned, even angry. I asked, "Why would you let this happen?" And in the silence that followed, a new kind of answer rose up. God's no is not rejection, it's redirection. That truth didn't erase the pain, but it changed the purpose. I began to see that surrender wasn't losing control, it was finally releasing the illusion that I ever had it. Through surrender, I was not left behind. I was realigned. If you're standing in that place now somewhere between grief and grace, not sure whether to keep hoping or let go, let this be a gentle reminder. You are not alone. You are covered by His grace. What feels like delay may be divine protection. What looks like the end may be the opening to something you never dared to dream. So here's my encouragement for you, my friend in faith. Keep praying, even when the answer feels far. Keep surrendering, even when it's uncomfortable. Keep showing up in the quiet, even when your heart is tired. Because God's presence meets us most deeply in our most vulnerable places. Let this final prayer rise in you. God, I release what I cannot carry. I surrender what I cannot control. I trust you with what I do not understand, and I believe you are still writing something good with my life. If this devotional has stirred something in you, a memory, a prayer, a tear, or a breath of peace, I invite you to share it. Comment your thoughts below, or leave a prayer for someone who needs it. Let this be more than a video. Let it become a moment of community, a space of comfort, hope, and healing. Your voice matters. Your testimony carries weight. Your presence here is not by accident. And if you feel led, share this prayer with someone you love. Someone who's been walking through a valley and needs a reminder that God's grace still flows in dry places. We are honored to pray with you each day. Your comments, your stories, your faith, they encourage us more than you know. Thank you for showing up. Before you go, here are a few simple questions for your heart. What is one area in your life where God might be inviting you to surrender? Is there a closed door you're still mourning that might, in time, reveal a better way? Who can you pray for today that might need exactly what you just received? We can't wait to meet you again in our next daily prayer. Just like today, we'll be here, ready to walk with you, and so will He. May you go in peace, strengthened by His love, surrounded by His Spirit, and anchored in the unshakable truth that you are never alone.